Okay, so in previous videos I've done a little bit on bringing information in, whether it be from a CSV file or a text file or from a website. I've not really focused on the visual side of things, and I'm only going to touch on the theme side of things on a sort of general design language today. Um, excuse me. So, if you've been, or if you're interested in building Power BI reports or dashboards and things, odds are you're going to do it. You're going to be doing it for work. You don't have to be doing this as your job. You could be using this to sort of give you a bit of an edge in your job. So if there's bits of information that you think are useful, going to give you a bit of a guide as to what you need to do to improve either your role or your department or things like that, any sort of key performance indicators. Basically anything that's measurable in a data sort of set, you can use Power BI to visualize that data. But if you want to do this, so if this is something that you want to start doing, you want to do it for work don't have any sort of Power BI developers in place, or it's not something that you want to try and get buy-in from the senior team, making it keeping the reports and things in line with your company branding will help, because it already looks like a finished product. It doesn't have to be, but it looks like it is. So for the purposes of this, I'm going to take inspiration from Walker's website. So what I mean by inspiration is you can see that they've got this red bar at the top, we've got a red bar at the bottom of the page, we've got this chunky white on red or red on white. There's a very clear colour theme of this dark red on this white, and also this orange appears in places. So we're going to use those colours, we're going to use this sort of design structure to build a very basic dashboard for Walkers. So what I've got here is I've googled a eyedropper or a colour picker browser extension, and what this means, I can go in and I can pick the colours from the page itself. So if I click on this, I click on pick from web page, it then lets me click here and it will tell me the exact so we've got the hex code here, we've got the RGB code here, so I'll be able to exactly match the colours that are used. So it'll make it really sort of nice and consistent with the company's design language and the branding. So you don't have to be a marketing person, you don't have to know much about design. Imitation is the most sincere form of flattery and all that. So I've just clicked on shape and added a rectangle. I'm going to get rid of the border because I'm not interested. I'm going to click on colours and more colours. This is where it's going to let me add that colour that I mentioned. So 196011 is the RGB colour format. 1960 and 11. Oh, 11. There we go. So Control C, Control V, and that'll copy paste that. So I've got my top and bottom, and just to make it look a bit more interesting, I've made the bottom a little bit more narrow than the top. Next thing to do is get the logo, so I right click on the logo, I save image as, and I've already done this, and you can see that the logo's saved on my desktop. So I can now insert that image, so I click on images, I click on Walkers, and you can see that it's brought the logo in. Eek. Just grab the handles and it's going to let me resize. So make it square first, then I'm going to reduce the size down a little bit, and then I'm going to place it up here and get it nice and in line. Now again, this is more proof of concept rather than being a bulletproof. It's all branded in, the margins are exact and all that sort of stuff. If you want to go to that level, you can do, but I just want to try and mock something up quite quickly. So next thing is we want some titles. Now the problem that I've found is that I don't know what this font is. I don't know what the font is, and I'm a little bit stuck because I'm using this as a proof of concept. I'm going to go to my bosses at Walkers and say, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of this report that I've put together? Or don't you think it's worth investing in Power BI? So to basically repurpose this, what we can do is we can right click and click on inspect, and inspect is going to open up developer tools. Now if you're not a developer, this is probably going to all look very hacky and like I'm I'm doing all sorts of crazy things. I'm not really. This is the code that represents this web page. You can see here in this, so H2 is header 2, and that's just to do with the font. So if I change this to header 3, it's going to change the look of that header. Header 1 is different again, as you can see. But this header 2 is what we're interested in because it's the white on red. If we double click on our philosophy, it's going to then let me overwrite that text. So I want Power BI report. Are you going to work okay? There we go. So you can see that that's changed that now to say Power BI report. Now this hasn't changed the website. This has just changed how the page is displayed. So I should have got overexcited there and I've clicked before I've explained what I'm doing. So the next thing is I'm going to go into snipping tools. So if you click on start and just start typing snipping, you'll find this. And what this allows you to do is basically copy something from a page or the screen. So I'm going to draw a box around that. And you can see here that it's sort of opened it up and it's just all it says is this Power BI report text. So I'm going to file and save that as desktop. You might see some others. It's because of me playing around with this earlier on. So I'm going to call this title. Yeah, I'm going to replace it. So if I go back to my report now, I can click on insert and I'm going to insert an image. Now the key thing here is that I've because this colour exactly matches the website's colour, this should let me just paste it in and it will look as if it always belonged there, as if by magic. So there we go. So Power BI report. So that looks pretty good. Again, we're on brand. We're consistent with the design on the main website. I know it doesn't have that up here, but we could add it in as a main body. But I want to try and in fact, let's do that as an option as well. So I'm going to right click on discover our delicious range, click on inspect. I'm going to change this to crisp information. Call it report information. There we go. So as before, open up snipping tools, click on new, just cut around that, save as. I'm going to call that capture, and then I'm going to bring that into the report. So insert image, it's that one. So if I wanted to be more in line with the with their website, because they don't seem to have anything at the top. They do have these sort of headers up and down, but they don't seem to have anything on the very top. So if I wanted to keep that consistency, I could get rid of Power BI report and keep this. So next thing, sorry, double clicking will bring that up. Next thing is to bring some data in. Now I've already built a data set, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open that up, and if you bear with me, it's nothing fancy. All I've done is I've got these 3 sheets. So I've got sheet 1, sheet 2 and sheet 3. Because this is a percentage, 0.62, 0.58, 0.59. I'm just trying to make it easier because I had this problem in one of the other run-throughs where basically if it's a whole number, it then times it by 100, so it formats weird. But that's a true percentage. So we've got our 3 sheets, and now we're going to connect to that data source. So we click on home. Let me just bring my recording software back up. So we click on home and we click on get data. Now again, previous videos I've gone through how you pull data from a website, how you can pull data from a CSV file or a text file, but now we're going to pull it from an Excel workbook. So I double click on Excel workbook. I'm interested in crisp stats. It's now going to let pull through the information that it thinks is usable from that file. So you can see it's got the 3 sheets and it's got previews of those 3 sheets. and we're happy with all those. Now instead of clicking load, now load is just going to pull that data straight in. I'm going to click on transform data because there's a little bit of tweaking that I want to do. The video that I went through about pulling information from a website, I did a lot more of this cleaning or transforming the data. So for the purposes of this though, we're just going to make sure everything's named correctly, and we'll go from there. So sheet 1 is crisp prices. Sheet 2 is crisp sales, and sheet 3 is crisp profit. So we've got these three different sets of data. I'm not going to do any more manipulation of the data other than that, and I'm going to close and apply. And what it's going to do is it's going to pull that in. It's going to show in the field section. It's going to let us pull data into the or add visuals and link into that data set. There's another thing I want to show though, because these are three completely separate bits of data. There's nothing that links them. Now Power BI is really good at automatically detecting and mapping data sets. So if we click on model, you can see it's already built these connections. So if you hover over the little join icon here, you can see it's linked crisp flavors together between sales and prices, and also between profit and prices. Now if you wanted, so I'm just going to delete that. So if you did want to manually do a join, all you do is you find the field that you're interested in joining, you drag it over onto the table you want to join on, and as long as that's a valid join, it will let you join on that. It'll bring up some information about many-to-many and one-to-many and things like that. I suggest you do a little bit of research into all those different join types, but for the purposes of this, that's enough for now. And basically it means that the crisp flavour here matches this. So if we add a filter, we can filter on the full data set. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to add in a donut chart. Didn't need to drag that. Drag that one. And we're going to add in a crisp flavour. In fact, this should give you an idea as to how this is all connected. So I'm adding crisp flavour from this data set, and I'm going to add profit percentage from this other data set, and you can see that it's actually pulled that in. Now we can do some cleaning up of this, but first of all I want to just change the type from profit percentage. So we click on that field, and it will go to column tools, and you see it's a decimal number. And the format, it just says general, but we want a percentage. There you go. So you can see that it's 63% a beef and onion, which makes up 20.79% overall. Now the other thing you can note is that these colours do not match what we would normally assume with those crisp flavours. So we can do things like we can get rid of the legend. We've got the detail label here, so we're going to set this to be the category and data value. So beef and onion at 63%. Now we can also include percentages of total. Sorry, we could replace that with percentage of total, or we can have the data value and percentage of total, or you put everything in. So we've got some data in there. Now we're going to change those colours because it'll confuse people and we want to be on brand. So beef and onion. So beef and onion is going to be brown. Salt and vinegar isn't blue, it's green. So we pick again, if there's a specific green colour that we wanted, we could find that specific colour for the green, the Walker's green. Prawn cocktail's pink, and cheese and onion is blue. So this now more accurately reflects the colours. We can go in, we can change the title, we could get rid of the title. It's more things like titles. It's more important if it isn't clear as to what that data is. We can do things like, let's add a bar chart in. Now I'm not going to go into how you should lay out these visuals on the page. There's all sorts of things. There's things like Fibonacci's spiral, golden ratio, stuff like that. That goes. It's quite an old thing, but basically it'll talk you through the good practice in laying out pages or laying things out, or good design sort of scaling, I suppose. So let's go with bag-sold this time. And I can never remember which one's which. Yes, we won crisp flavours across the bottom. We won bag-sold across the top. We can do. Sure, we can do. I'm sure I've seen colours. I'm sure I've done it where you can specify which colours are which. Is it that one? Not sure. Anyway, these are, it's all part of the learning process. So there'll be ways of getting the colours to match up. So that if you cheese and onion is your blue, this is beef, so you'd set the colour for the beef. It's going to annoy me now. X title. How annoying. Are you there? Okay. Anyway, I've sort of briefly touched on some of the things you can do to sort of bring it all in line with a design. Obviously, this still needs lots of work. You can do other things. So if we wanted to add subtitles and things like that from the page, we can also copy that. You see how this has got the shadow. So the shadow thing, we can do things like insert a shape. So we're going to insert a shape with a rounded corner. We're going to set the rounded corner to, let's go down to 5%. We're going to change it from blue to white. We're going to add a border which is going to be grey. I'm going to go with grey. Let's go with grey. Make it a little bit thicker. We can add a shadow to it as well. So, other thing to note, so you see that now sits on top of the visual that we've added. And we don't want it to. So this is where you've got things like order. So we can go into view and we can do selection. And this basically shows you the layers on the page. So this shape, you can rename them as well if you really want to sort of build a good template. So you can move that right to the back. And you can see that, well, you can't see because this is in the way, but you can see that that's now behind. So if you did want to add things in a way that they fit in little boxes, that's another option for you. Move that over here as well, so we've got one around our pie chart. Let's move that to the back. Make sure that all our pie chart fits within our box. So I'm not saying that this is in any way a masterpiece, because I know it's not, but obviously as you play around with this, it'll get much better. It'll be much easier to sort of build in these this sort of template. You don't really need visuals to be able to build a template. You can do it by just creating the boxes. So you've got this box here, you could create a box over here, copy paste. Let's try and get this into thirds. Obviously if you want it nicely split up into thirds, it is worth making sure that you've measured everything. So we've got thirds there. This, are you central? Yes, you're central there. Move this over a little bit more. Copy paste. again, we can make that. If you're accurate with the measurements and things, you can really sort of nail this down. And the grid line thing will also help, because it really does mean you can snap these to the grid and really sort of make sure that they're consistent. Just move that there. You can see them all lining up when you've got everything in line. So that's in line. That's in line with that. That's in line with that. So there you go. So it's not fantastic. I fully admit that it's not fantastic, but it gives you an idea as to how you can build a layout on the page. In other videos, I'll go through how these each of these visuals, you know, what you can do with them, how you sort of really, you know, you can customize them. Let's go with that one. Back sold. So yeah, it's really powerful to be able to sort of build these data sets in. You know, it's a phenomenal tool to be able to sort of create things. Sorry, I'm getting myself overexcited and carried away with stuff now. So yeah, and once you've got your basic design set up, once you're happy with it, you can either save it. There are things you can do with color palettes. You can save these things. You can save it as a template. I'm sort of often, you know, I'll build something, make sure that the layout's something that I'm happy with, and then I'll save the template, and then from that point on, I'll just make sure that I use this, and I just put the visuals in the boxes. But anyway, I'm now waffling. That's roughly, fairly, not that quickly, it's 20 minutes, but how you can build a report template.